Cool. All right. And then I think we talked last time about going the full screen here so we can see. Can you guys see PowerPoint up all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. With only one monitor here, I'm going to have to go back and forth a bit, and I'll make sure to click back into the stream occasionally just to make sure if there's any questions. And we can see the cool little inception going on with the screen within a screen. But cool. Once again, appreciate you guys being flexible. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and skip the first storytelling section. And what I'm going to do, just so we don't lose kind of the valuable nature of going through that and getting feedback, is I'll just go through tomorrow all the links and screenshots that you guys sent me and provide kind of some notes around things that I'd potentially update or things that I liked. And then we'll just kind of hit the ground running next week or on Wednesday with our assignment for this week. So this week is going to be, I had kind of mentioned last week with the bar charts, line charts, and scatter plots. Those are going to be about 90% of the charts that you'll use in Tableau. And the principles and the lessons and kind of tips that we learned last week will be carried over here. But this week is to kind of go through basically everything that we're going to touch on tonight is going to be, if you hit that like show me section in Tableau in the top right, all the other chart types that it gives us. So we'll cover just like real basic text tables, highlight tables, heat maps, dual axis charts, which I love, tree maps, Gantt charts, pie charts, and then if we have time, how to turn the pie into a donut, which is not native Tableau functionality, but we'll get you some kind of expert level Tableau workarounds in order to accomplish that. So it should be, once again, similar to last week, a pretty heavy hands-on night where I'll kind of go through, show you guys how to do it, turn it over to you, let you build it. But these will be kind of the, call it 7.5 chart types that we're going to cover tonight. So like I mentioned, we're going to skip over this just for the sake of time, but I will look at all the links that you guys sent me and provide feedback there so that you can kind of continue to iterate on those. So overview, this will be I'm kind of going to try to break it up into two separate sections here, where the first four, in my mind, are a real logical progression of really, really useful charts that I use pretty frequently. And you'll kind of understand what I mean by logical progression as we get into it. But we'll kind of go through the pros and cons of each and how you can fix some of the cons to move on to the next one. So the text table, when I say text table, think Excel. We can replicate that in Tableau. But as we work our way down the chart, things that we can't do in text tables, we can do in highlight tables. Things that we can't do there, we can do in heat maps. Things that we can't do there, we can do in dual axis charts. And then the last three don't really fit that trend. They're more so specific kind of ad hoc use cases that are just really, really nice to have kind of in your backpack for when you need to pull them out. And we'll kind of talk about when to use them and when not to. So like I said, going to be really, really heavy hands-on night. We're going to try to fly through the 8 different chart types in a very short amount of time. Last week, again, is going to account for most of what we use. But these, I would say, is kind of set you apart as a visualization specialist, as they all have specific use cases. So everyone, well, not everyone, but people that have gone through the first week of Omaha Data Science Academy can build those first 3. But being able to recognize, hey, this would actually be a perfect time for just a table, or hey, this would be a perfect time for a heat map. This will kind of strengthen your repertoire and allow you to really nail those specific use cases of when this chart type is exactly what you need. And again, similar to last week, learning the ins and outs of these charts will help you have a more comprehensive understanding. So you'll learn how to do something tonight, building a heat map that would actually be really, really useful for building out a bar chart or a line chart. And it will strengthen your skills kind of on both sides of it. And as I'm going through here, like I said, I don't have my dual monitor set up. So if you guys do have questions or something, feel free to just kind of interrupt me and chime in. I'll make sure to pause, obviously, as we start diving through this. So one thing that we're going to stress, last week, I feel like the UX law that we covered, the main one at least, was the data ink ratio. I am not a UX designer. I'm not a designer. I'm a decent visualization guy, but there are some laws of UX and UI that I like to pluck out and incorporate into my data vises. And the one that we're going to really try to hammer home tonight is Jacob's Law. And so there's actually this really, really cool website. And since I'm sharing my screen, we'll just pull it up right now, called lawsofux.com, which is like a designer's dream. So if you guys want to spend some time going through all of these, it's built out really, really nice. It'll talk about all the different laws that you should be thinking about. And these are primarily tailored towards people that are building websites or landing pages. Make the design really pretty and the user experience awesome. But there's one that I use, similar to the data ink ratio all the time, which is Jacob's Law here. So that's the one that we're going to be primarily covering tonight. Another link that I have linked here is actually from this course that was taught a couple of years ago. The instructor actually spent a whole week going through every single one of those lawsofux.com, and all 8 weeks are on YouTube. So if you want to dive more in depth, and he is a designer that got into data viz, and I'm kind of a data viz guy that's getting into design. So I think we come at it from two different approaches, where I'm going to be a little bit more heavy on the data side. He was definitely a little more heavy on the design side. So if you want to check that out, I have that linked as well for when I send out the slides after. But what is Jacob's Law? So users I'll just read it verbatim, spend most of their time on other sites. This means that users prefer your site to work the same as all the other sites they already know. So I've talked about this kind of in passing before, but it's really, really easy as you begin to learn more and more about Tableau and all the different chart types you can build and all the different visualizations you can add in. And I've definitely struggled with this before too, is you want to show off your skills. You want to show all the awesome things that you can build. You want to make it look really, really pretty. But at the end of the day, it's all about the end user and their comprehension. So the most important thing, and it kind of falls in line with the data ink ratio, is how can you make it as simple as possible so that your user understands. And so as we get into some of these different chart types, I'll mention, or even ask, does this follow Jacob's Law? Is this something that people will recognize and instantly know what it's showing? Or is this something that they're going to have to look at for a bit and try to understand, well, this box is slightly bigger than this one. This one's yellow and this one's blue. Okay, now I understand it. If it takes someone even 5 to 10 seconds to kind of understand what they're looking at, you've already kind of lost them from an impact standpoint. So users will transfer expectations they have built around one familiar product to another that looks similar. So for instance, bar charts, line charts, scatter plots, right? Everyone knows what those are. They can look at it instantly. They see up and to the right on the line chart is good. A low bar is bad. A correlation and a scatter plot means that there's something going on with the two axes. So by leveraging existing mental models, we can create superior user experiences in which users can focus on the task rather than trying to understand the chart type. And when making changes, minimize discord by empowering users to continue using a familiar version for a limited time. So this is why, some people may call it lack in creativity or originality, but if you go to a website, 99% of them look pretty much exactly the same. You know where to click, you know where to follow. That's the same thing that we're going to try to stress in tonight's lesson around data viz. So by far the easiest one, and I guess let me pause real quick and ask for questions before we get into the different chart types here. Rochelle, welcome to the stream. Add you in here. Cool. So the very first one here is a text table. This is one that I was really, really, really resistant to using in my data viz. until I saw how powerful it could be, where I'd go 3, 4, 5 iterations of like, does this work? Do you understand this better? Do you understand this better? And I'd eventually just get to a text table. And I thought to myself, well, I could have just made this in Excel and not let me show off my Tableau skills. But because of Jacob's Law, this is something that is by far the easiest, especially if they're not data people, the easiest for them to understand. Whoops. So it's a format people that are familiar with. They can see details without having to hover. That's something that I constantly get pushback on when I deliver dashboards at work. Is they're like, yeah, we can see the trends here, but we want to actually know, did we make $300,000 this month? Did we make 320,000? Did we make 290? It's tough to see. I can see it's close to the 300,000, but unless I'm showing the details on there, they still have to hover in every single month and see what's going on. So the cons of a text table. You can only show one measure in one dimension at a time. And it's really, really difficult to spot trends. So the negative numbers I can kind of see, they stick out to me here. But I really have to kind of scan throughout the table here where, let's see, apply accessories in the West, 16K. That looks like the highest. Looks like 11K. Negative tables in the East is the lowest. But it doesn't really instantly jump out the page. So we can fix that. Moving on to our next, like I said, the first 4 here are going to be really, really logical kind of progressions. Is a highlight table. So this is exactly the same as the text table. The only difference is that we are now including colors to show the highest and lowest scale of the values here. So now I instantly see, look, I was actually wrong. I thought 16K accessories in the West was the highest, but now I see this dark blue 19K. Looks like copiers is actually the most profit out of any of our regions. Their accessories at 19K. And then this negative 11K tables jumps off the page here. So same 2 pros, format people are familiar with. You can see details without having to hover. And now it's easy to spot trends. But once again, you can only, easily show one measure in one dimension at a time. So right now I'm looking at profits by category and subcategory. If I wanted to show sales or discounts or anything else by here, it starts to break down pretty fast. But it is a step in the right direction from the text table. So then we get into heat maps. I'm showing the same exact thing as before, profits by category and subcategory. And my profits are in the blue, yellow, or blue to orange spectrum that I had before. But now I've also tossed in sales. And sales are the size of each dot here. So now, previously we had the before, we were only able to show one measure. We can now show sales and profits at one time. We can easily spot trends. You see that dark blue copiers in the West, we're able to see that's our highest profits. But we can also see from a sales standpoint, that's not as high as like chairs in the West. So while we're getting a lot of profits, we're not getting a lot of sales there. So we can show multiple dimensions. We can easily spot trends. But Jacob's Law, when you look at this at first, you may, you feel like you're looking at a modern art gallery or something like that. You don't really understand that it's data viz. It took even me a second to be like, okay, profits are the color, sales are the sizes. Now I kind of understand it. So it's not a format people that are familiar with. And another thing I really don't like about heat maps is you cannot see details without having to hover. So we have our scales over to the right here. Copiers in the West looks like it's maybe somewhere between 80 and 102K, but I don't know for sure. The colors are even harder to tell. So unless you're trying to just get real high understanding of which is bigger than which, it's really not a great chart format. Which leads us to our very last one. So we had text tables, we had highlight tables, we're getting heat maps, we're getting closer and closer on each one. My absolute favorite chart type are dual axis charts. So this allows us to use 2 of the chart types that we learned last week, the bar charts and the line charts. So we already know how to build it, but the difference is now we have multiple measures shown at one time. So we have sales in gray, which are our bar charts. We have profits in green, which are our line charts here. So we can show multiple. We can easily spot trends, which is the highest, which is the lowest. Are we going up over time? We're going down. It's a format that people are familiar with. The only thing I don't love about it is you still have to hover. However, we can use one of the tips and tricks that we learned last week about putting the label directly on the bars or lines as opposed to over the left. And then we have the ability to not have to hover, and we can kind of see everything all at once. So this is kind of the logical progression that I'm going to walk you guys through. I'm going to pause for a second if anyone has any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and open Tableau Public and start kind of building these out.
Looks straightforward to me.
Cool. Love it. So I got Tableau Public open already. I'm going to go ahead and connect to our Superstore data, just like we have the past couple classes. Again, tonight, all I'm going to really need is the order. So I'm going to double click and open that up. Go to sheet 1, and we're off to the races. Hopefully that part is starting to kind of become a habit for you guys by now. But I am going to continue to walk you through it every week because there will be some data sets we'll want to bring in multiple sheets, and we'll walk through the joins and things of that nature. So step 1 of that logical progression is just a simple text table. Now, build kind of the basic version is fairly simple, but we'll walk through some of the things that we learned last week to kind of optimize it and make it look a little pretty. Then I'll stop sharing my screen and let you guys kind of take a turn at it as well. So what I was diving into in my examples was subcategory. So if I pull a category over just real quick, just so you can see how these are broken out. I think the past examples, all I've used is category, which is furniture, office supplies, and technology. You can see all these subcategories roll up to one of those. So we have bookcases, chairs, furnishing, and tables. Those all run up to furniture. So for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to use subcategory. Then we're going to, I always like to use sales just because it's pretty straightforward. Now, by default, Tableau tosses this into a bar chart, which I really like, but the point of the exercise is to use a text table. So instead of trying to figure out, well, I'll show you both ways. The easiest is just to click up to show me and just click this text table because we already have the dimension and we already have the measure we want. So if we just go like that, it automatically makes it for us. If we didn't want to do that and we wanted to do it and show that we actually know how to build it, all we would do is drag the sums of sales, which right now is populating how big the columns are, right? Going across, these are all columns. If we get rid of those bars and just drag this to the label, now we have our subcategories are still on the rows, and then the label for each one is the sum of sales. Now, we know that our sales are a dollar amount, so we're going to click here onto sales. We're going to go default properties. We're going to go number format, and we're going to go currency. These are all in thousands, so I'm okay, dropping it down to one decimal place and truncating it to the thousands to make it a little bit more easy to read. And then we probably don't need, right, data inc ratio. We probably don't need our subcategory heading here. So let's go ahead and right click on that, hit hide. And now the only way we can do that is if we let people know what is shown on the table. So we're going to go sales by subcategory. And now we're able to see this is subcategory, this is sales. Then the only thing I would change after this is get rid of these kind of alternating bands shading, because we learned last week white space is an object and we can use it. So we just right click anywhere on here and go to format. And then we're going to go to the little shading tab up top, and we can see we have our row banding here. So just to show this works, I'll turn it on to black, right? This is just every other row, what color we want it to be. We're going to go ahead and change that to none. And then we have our banding right here. Same thing, if we change that to black, see that's where it's showing. We're going to change that to none. And now we have sales by subcategory. Really, really straightforward. If we wanted to, we can go ahead and sort it. So we have our highest ones up top, our lowest ones at the bottom there. But this will be the chart, the most basic text table that we're going to build our progression on. So I'm going to, maybe I'll go ahead and keep this showing so you guys can build it out and have a reference. But I'm going to pause for, call it 2 to 5 minutes here. Let you guys open up Tableau Public and let's all try to build this. And as always, jump in as you have questions. While you guys are building that out, I'm going to mess around with my screen share to see if I can. Yeah, there we go. That's what I want. Ryan, I just noticed your little avatar for StreamYard here. That's a adorable picture of your puppers.
Yeah, that's my puppy. Maybe I'll mix them up throughout the night, just to give you a full showing there. How's your little one doing?
Doing well. Doing well. Yeah, we'll see. This is kind of this is actually my first time away from him.
Okay.
Since we moved in, so we'll see if I can get through the next 3 days.
It's not fun to leave them, that's for sure.
Yeah, but very fun to walk in the door on the way back.
Oh yeah.
And once you guys get this built out or get close, if you just want to give me a heads up that you got it done, just so I can kind of gauge how far everyone is along, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm done.
Very cool.
I'm done as well.
Awesome.
I just finished.
Perfect.
I'm good.
Sweet. Is there anyone else that is struggling that I can help out with real quick? Cool. If not, you guys are really going to like this next transition. So all we would need to do to turn this from a text table here to a, what do they call it, a highlight table, is just take our sum of sales again, drag it onto color. And then, as always, I go up to here, and we can see now we can do highlight tables. So go ahead and click that, and it automatically populates. So we have the sum of sales as our label, sum of sales as a color. And again, if we didn't want to cheat and do the show me, the only thing that changed between these two is you can see right now on marks right here, I'm showing automatic. I think someone actually had a question in the Slack channel where Tableau was showing a bar by default. They wanted to show something else. If we don't want it to be just the text, we can do square. And what that would look like normally is just exactly what it looks like, squares that are colored. But since we have sum of sales on the label, we now have the text and the color here. And I think actually in my examples, now that I think about it, I had another dimension. I think I had region up here on the columns just to give it a little bit more depth. So let's go ahead and get rid of region. Cool. So yeah, that progression is a pretty simple one. But if things, it allows you, draws the eyes to the outliers a lot quicker. A little bit easier to read and pick up on trends right away. So that one should be pretty quick, but I'll give you guys a couple minutes to make those changes. And feel free to mess around too. If you don't like the blue coloring here, say your company's color is red or something like that, feel free to apply that. Although I would caution against using red, since our brain typically interprets red as bad and green as good. So try to use something other than those two typically. Maybe a nice purple.
Can you show how you bolted out the colors one more time for me, please?
How I did what?
How you bolded the colors?
Yeah. So if you have sum of sales dragged up on color here.
Yep, I have that part.
Then just make sure instead of by default, I think it'll just be automatic or text.
Okay.
You'll just want to make sure
square.
Do square there. Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And all that means is that instead of coloring the text like it is here, it'll put a shape. Whoops. It'll put a square behind it and color that, and then we still have our label here showing it.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm actually going to make a couple of these so when I publish it, we can see what they are. And again, if you guys want to give me a shout when you've got this, that'd be great.
Good.
Ted, are you back home?
Yeah, all three screens are up and operational, and I can do it as we go.
Heck yeah. Did you ever, when you're in your hotel, did you ever connect HDMI to the TV?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I was thinking, I was in such a rush to get logged on today, but I think for Wednesday, what I'll do is I'll spend some time figuring out how to get that hooked up.
Yeah, it's well worth it to do. And then you can sit there with dual screens at least.
Right. We actually have one person in our office that has at least a 30, maybe like a 40-inch TV that they brought into their desk and that they use as a monitor every day, which I think is a little obnoxious, but if it works, maybe I'll become a believer after this trip.
We're switching to 32 and 40-inch curved monitors now.
Ooh, wow.
And they are awesome.
Like for everyone in the office?
Yeah, slowly we're getting through it.
That's sweet. I'm very, very envious.
And then you can use Power Toys, Microsoft Power Toys, to make your application snap to the right spot on the screen every time.
Right. I've seen that before. Like that's something I should be able to hook up. Like that works on like any PC, right?
Yeah, it's a Microsoft download. That's all.
I might have to check that out because that is. I use like the classic like snap over to the right and stuff, but I would love to be able to Yeah, like on my big monitors have quadrants and things like that.
Yep, spot on.
Cool. Anyone having any issues here, or are you good if we move to the next one?
No, but what I'm liking about this is noticing that it does automatically flip the colors on the
Yeah.
numbers.
Yes, that is a huge help. Cool. So the next one here, let me go ahead and duplicate this, is we're going to be building out that heat map. So again, we could just click this, and it will generate something for us here, but we don't really understand what's going on. So let's go back and see if we can build it from scratch. So we know that we no longer have a label on there. We know that the sum of sales is going to continue to be the color, but now we want to bring the sum of profit over. So let's bring that over and put it on size. And you can see already, if I get rid of this, we now have our sum of sales, which is the color, our sum of profit, which is the size. I'm going to go ahead and see where it says standard up here. If we click entire view, Tableau will automatically expand it across the entire view. I would say I do this like, I don't know, 90% of the time. The only time it doesn't really make sense is if you had, let's go back to standard. If we brought like row ID or something over on the rows, it will pop up and say, hey, you have 10,000 members on here. If we add all of them and then try to hit entire view, you lose. It's putting 10,000. If you can see the highlights here, rows all at once. But when we just have, 16 or so things here, we should be fine. Now, the only thing I don't love about this is I don't think it's really making a good use of all of our room here. So even though we have the sum of profit on size, if we click onto size here, it gives us a little flexibility. So if we drag that slider about halfway, now you can see, okay, now I can see where the boxes are at. They're a lot more prominent. That one might be a little too big. We have some running in together here. So let's drag it down a little. And now I think we're in a lot better spot where we're making use of all of our space. I also, as pretty as the purple was, I don't think it's a great use. It's kind of tough to tell light purple from dark purple. So let's go to like a temperature diverging or something. And we actually want to flip this because we don't want green to be low and red to be high. Is there a better one here? Yeah, we can just click reversed and hit OK. And now we have our green ones are a ton of sales. Our red ones are not very many sales, and the sizes, we can see the big boxes over here are where we get most of our profit.
Charlie, I had a question for you.
Yep.
So when you were adding or you were going to put OK, I typically put apply, and I don't know why instead of OK. Does it matter?
Oh, all apply will do, and I actually use that sometime as well, is it will, as the name suggests, apply the changes that you're trying to make without closing out of the dialog box. So like if I go to color, edit colors, and say, I just want to see what this brown looks like, I can hit apply, and it updates and say, I actually kind of like brown, but let's try, I don't like it. Let's go blue, teal, apply. And that's just easier than having to click on this, click OK, realize I don't like it, go back into it, and start from scratch.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
And where was that sizing at?
Just over here in the marks tab, if you just click on size, it gives you this little slider here.
Oh, sorry, it's right in front of me.
Anyone getting it or running into any issues?
Good here.
Yeah, I'm good.
Good.
All right. We're going to go to the last step in this kind of progression here and go with the dual axis chart. And then we'll kind of take a quick, 5 to 10 minute break after that. So if anyone has any questions from the previous ones, feel free to jump in there. So for the record, I think that this is a really, really ugly chart type, but it is one that Tableau gives by default. I've used it a couple times when I just want to really, really quickly draw, emphasis to the fact of, hey, this is where we get most of our sales, even though it's a smaller thing. But what I would use instead of this that I really, really like is the dual axis chart. So we are going to start a new tab because I want to start from scratch. We're going to drag subcategory over here onto our columns. And then we're going to drag our sum of sales over here on rows. So already we have our bar chart. We had talked about this last week, pretty straightforward. Now, where the dual axis comes in is we're now going to drag profit over here on the rows as well. And as you can see, what I did here is we have right here all of our sales. This is what we were looking at before. Now underneath here, we have profit. This is what we're looking at here. And a lot of times I'll use something like this. I can go ahead and bring, discount over here as well. It brings in another row. We can get quantity in here as well. And if you just want to look at bar charts, that's great. But oftentimes what you'll want to do is compare one to the other. So to make this a dual axis, meaning we have basically two y-axes, we're going to have one y-axis that shows sales and one y-axis that shows profit. We're just going to right click onto our axis here and click dual axis. And what that will do, and ignore the jumbled mess that it gave us, is now we have sales over here, we have profits over here, and we still have our subcategories here. Now, for the life of me, I do not know why Tableau, when you do dual axis, it chooses to default to these weird little circle things. For the most part, I think Tableau default options are great, but this one constantly baffles me. But it will be good to kind of walk through exactly what's going on so that we can get our dual axis to work. So now over here on our marks tab, we now have 3 little subsections. Whereas before, if we just had sales, this is what we're used to seeing, right? Color, size, label, details, tooltips, all right here. However, when we bring a second one over, dual axis, we now have 3. So what this is doing is it allows us to change those same marks that we're typically doing, but either for one of these things, the other one, so just for sales, just for profits, or for both. So what I mean by that is, say we want to change the sales colors here and make them bigger. You can see the sales bubble got bigger, the profit one stayed small. All right, we'll bring that back. Right here, if we clicked on profit, we can do the same thing. Those get bigger, those don't. And if we clicked on all and did size, it would increase all of them. So pretty straightforward. What we're going to do now, though, is we want one of these to be showing a bar and one to be showing a line. So let's click into sales. We'll go from automatic to bar. And you can see now our sales are these orange bars, which is kind of what we had before. And then for profit, I typically like to do a bar chart with a line chart. Although you could, if you wanted to, you can keep them as dots on here. I'd maybe make them a little smaller, or you could bring in and show another bar. But what I'm going to do is do a line chart here. So now we're getting close. I'm going to pause for a second if you got questions, but we have our bar chart for sales. We have our line charts for profit. Any questions?
No.
Nope.
Cool. So now we're just going to clean this up a little bit. The next kind of big decision that you'd have to make, and this is kind of a case-by-case basis, is if you want these two axes to be exactly the same, or Tableau calls them synchronized, or individual. So what I mean by that is sales, you can see goes up to 300K here, profit goes up to 50K here. I personally think that's a little misleading. So what I will do is I'll right click over here and you just click synchronize axes. And now you can see profit goes up to 300K, sales goes up to 300K. And we're now able to see them both side by side. The only time I typically don't do that is if profit is something like if it's a decimal from like 0 to 1 or even something like 0 to 100. And when you put it on the same axis as sales, you can't even see the trends. It just looks like a flat line at the bottom. At that point, I have them on different things. Actually, at that point, I would typically try to find a different chart type. But if they're roughly, within the same power of 10, and you can still see the trends on the profit, I typically get rid of it here, or I typically synchronize it. So a couple things that you guys should be pretty used to doing now. We'll go format, hit the rows, and let's get rid of the grid lines. Clean that up. We'll get rid of subcategory here and rename our title. Let's call this sales. Oops. Profits, we better make that a dollar amount as well. So dimension or default properties, number, format, currency. And then again, I always like to have that axis ruler. Although at this point, since it goes negative here, that 0 line is probably what we want to pop out a little bit to make that a little more pronounced. There we go. And the last thing that I showed in the example that I think kind of does a good job of putting the finishing touches on it is the only thing I don't like about this is the two different colors. You have two different axes here. You have sales, profits, but they're synced. So we're kind of doubling up on data, right? We got 300K, 300K. But if I remove this, and we have sales and profits, if I remove this, now I don't know which is which. I have my measure names over here, which is all right. So you could just leave it as is. But what I like to do sometimes is I will, I'll go up here and I'll actually color these. I know my sales is orange and I know my profits is blue. And those aren't exact. Let's bold them so we show that we're actually trying to show this. And like I said, if you wanted to keep the little key up here to the right, I think that's totally fine. But this is something, then we can go ahead and actually get rid of this completely. We just get rid of it. Actually, I don't think it'll let us in the view, but when we bring it over a dashboard here, we would delete that. But so now they can easily see sales, okay, as orange, profits is blue. They're both using the same axis, so we just need one of these here, and we're good to go. So I feel like that was a lot of steps, so I'll pause here. We'll give you guys a little bit more time to complete this one. And as always, jump in as you guys have questions. Anyone got it put together yet?
Yep.
I'm still working on it. Did find a cool way to sort sales on the bar, and you hit it again, and it does it by profit.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
cool. Let me see. So you were able. That's by sales. So what'd you do to get profit?
This is on the other one. I can't even recreate it.
I think actually, so if we go and click on subcategory, and go sort, we can go field, profit.
Yes.
There we go. Huh. Very cool.
One thing I'm having a problem with is getting my numbers to go by 50K marks like you have.
Yeah, so a lot of times that's just with it, it'll automatically adjust based on how big your screen is. So like if I change this to standard,
Okay.
with, let's see, if I full screen here, now you can see it goes by 20K.
Yeah.
Could just be on a different screen size. However, if you wanted to make that static instead of dynamic, you can double click on that axis and bring this open. So then there's a little general side here where you can make this fixed. Say you wanted it to go up to like $1 million. You can fix that there. I typically leave these automatic, but if you go over to tick marks, again, you can see it's automatic right now, but we can go fixed. So now it's every 100K. Say we wanted to show every 10K, we could do that.
That's awesome.
I think my question is, kind of the obvious. I couldn't figure out how to put them on top of each other.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. I'll just start a new one real quick. So we got our subcategories here. And then we got our sales here, our profits here. So all you have to do to get them on top of each other is right click the axis of your bottom one. And then there's a little dual axis button that pops up. And then that gets them on top of each other. Then you can go in and start adjusting. Okay, this is a bar. We want this one to be a line. And then you can go from there. Did that fix it?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, dual axes are, I'd say, one of the more powerful charts, and I use them quite a bit. It's really, really tough. They have it in the show me, but for some reason it never really registers here. Like right now, you can see it's grayed out, even though we literally have it right here. Actually, I know exactly why that's happening, but we will cover that at a later date.
How did you sort by profit again? I didn't see the first step you took to.
Yeah, so by default, I'm guessing what these automatic sort ones do is just whichever one's in front. So if we pull profit here, it sorts by profit,
Okay.
which I don't love actually, because then the line chart's hidden. So I kind of want to keep it here. But then if we try to sort it again, it messes it up. So what is actually sorting is the dimensions at the bottom, right? It's sorting the dimensions by the measures. So if we click on our dimension up here and click sort, it gives us all sorts of options here. So data source order is just the order that it is in our data, exactly what it sounds like. So not super helpful. We could go alphabetical if you wanted to do that. A lot of times I'll sort stuff alphabetically. There we go. When I have like people's names involved, so they can easily see Charlie's and the C's, right? But field is the one I use the most, because then you can go in and say, okay, we want the field that we're trying to sort by as profit, and it's the sum of profits. So then you can see that it's going up and down.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep. I guess the last thing is manual. Sometimes I'll do this. We have a customer life cycle where people move through stages from like acquisition to like commitment to like loyalty, what we call them. So they're not in alphabetical order. We're not sorting by field. But I always want to show kind of the logical progressions that they go in. So you can actually drag these around just manually too if you wanted to. Anyone else have any questions or struggling with something? Cool. Let's we're like right at an hour now. So let's take a quick call it. We'll just go 7 minutes. And let's come back at 8:25. I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and turn on my camera and unpack a little bit. But yeah, 8:25, we'll be back. All right, we got about 1 more minute here. We'll let everyone get back and settled in. I'm really, really proud of being able to figure out this sweet little banner we have scrolling across the screen.
Yeah, nice.
Thanks. Okay, 825. We'll hide that. I'm gonna stop my screen share. Go back to the slides. Cool. All right, we have these back open. All right, the next couple that we're going to tick through are tree maps and Gantt bars. So, and then we'll get into the remainder of the slides are the great pie chart debates. You love them or you hate them, and we'll kind of see both sides here. So, tree maps I actually really like, although I feel like I shouldn't. So, we can show the thing I love about tree maps is, right, when I gave that example of, right, say I had 50 different rows all at once. If we show that in a bar chart, it's going to get incredibly crowded here. If we show that in a pie chart, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. On this tree map here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 14, 17 different subcategories here, and they all easily fit onto this screen. And we can show the parts of the whole really, really well. So we can see right here, this is all of our profits. You can see the entire tree map makes up all of our profits. And you can get a really good approximate of what the parts of a whole are. Now, I don't love this for kind of comparing them to each other, or if you wanted to know exact values or anything like that. But we can instantly see, right, copiers, phones, and accessories. Those right there make up, probably over a third. We can easily tell that. Paper, binders, and chairs, we can tell that makes up probably a little over a fourth. We can easily tell that. But it starts to break down pretty quickly for a couple different reasons. So the one thing I don't like about it is the color and the size are actually showing the exact same thing right here, right? Copiers is a really, really dark blue, and it's also the biggest. So that's obviously what we've learned from data ink ratio. That's not ideal. And the other thing that's duplicating on the data ink ratio is the label as well. Now, you don't have to put the label in there, right? Copier is 56K. The reason I have that is so we don't have to worry about the approximate size of each. We can actually show exactly what they are. But again, now we're kind of almost tripling up on how we're showing profits. It's also not a chart, if we go back to Jacob's Law from the very beginning, that people are familiar with, but it does have its use cases. A lot of times on like the New York Stock Exchange and things like that, they'll show like a technology division and show their total market share. So if you follow that, you'll see this chart type a lot. The other thing I don't love about it is introducing negatives really, really complicates the view, because we're showing parts of a whole, and 18,000, negative 18,000 is the same size as, call it positive 18,000 tables and appliances. But obviously a negative number should be the opposite, right? Twice as small, it doesn't really make up parts of a whole. So it's a little bit confusing when you start trying to think about that. But again, it does have its use cases. So let's actually, these next three, let's go one by one. So let's build a tree map real quick. So actually pretty easy. Let's go ahead and just drag, like we've been doing, subcategories. It really doesn't matter anywhere up here. Let's drag profits anywhere up here. See, by default, it gives us this line chart. We'll go up to show me, and we can see, let's see, where's our tree map? Right here. Click that. And now we instantly have our tree map viewed. Now, by default, I talked about how negatives are kind of weird. Notice that it doesn't show this, but we get this weird little warning in the bottom. So 3 negative values. If we click that, it pops open and lets us know, do we want to filter the data or use absolute values? So if we filter the data, well, I'll just show you. We can click that and it gets rid of them completely. But what I did in the example is use absolute values. So now you can see the tables and appliances are the same size there. So this already I like. From a data Inc. perspective, it probably makes more sense to not put the labels on here. But again, it's kind of tough to tell, unless you want to hover over each one of these exactly how much profits are on each one. So what I did was I just drug profits onto the label, and now we have that underneath. And it's exactly the same as what I showed in the example. So we'll rename this profits by sub. Cool. So that one was pretty straightforward. So I'll pause for, I'll give you guys 2-3 minutes. Let you guys replicate that before moving on to the next one. And Ryan, I did update. I noticed you update your avatar. That is an equally cute picture of your dog, and I do appreciate it.
I'm a big dog man, so can't wait to see yours at some point.
Heck yeah, I'll get him incorporated in some slides. And then just give me a little shout once you guys have it.
Got it.
Yeah, I got it too. One thing I wanted to play with here was the way the labels are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I click label, and it's automatically taking me to this. I guess I hit the 3 dots, right?
Yep.
Okay.
What are you wanting to accomplish?
I would like them to be on a single line next to each other.
Oh, yep. So once you click the 3 dots, you should be able to just let's go ahead and add a colon in there too. Let's mess around with how those fields look and put them side by side. I actually really like that.
So I'm trying to take the profits and make it similar to how we had it in the I forget what you called it. The red and green.
Oh, what is that board called? This one, the highlight table.
Yeah, similar to that. Yeah. So I'd like the positive profits to be in green or
Oh yeah,
black, and then make the negatives red, black and red, I guess. So I should figure out how to do that.
Yeah, so if you just click on color and then edit colors, it should give you an option to choose what you want your palette to be. And then the temperature diverging is the one that I clicked. But here's another example of stupid Tableau defaults. The green is negative by default, so you want to make sure to click reversed.
I don't want to do it diverging. I want it simply red or green.
Oh, okay.
So I'd use a blue-green sequential and just change the colors.
Yeah, but if you just want it like just red or green, like no diverging? Is that what you're looking for?
No. So I guess what I'm saying is I want copiers where we see it's 55.6K to leave it copiers, kind of in that
Like just
white, but make the number.
oh,
I guess green wouldn't be a good color if you're using it there, but when
right.
you're on the blue orange.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Whoops. So since we have the sum of profits already on the color, I don't know actually if we can have two different colors, one for the chart itself and one for the actual individual text. Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know if there's a way to do that, but I can take that after class. I can do some digging and see if that's possible.
No, okay, I'll do it. Maybe I can come back with something. You're at a show. Go enjoy your show.
Well, no, that's a good question. I can see the use case for that for sure. Anyone else running into any issues here? Cool. I know we're getting close. We only got about 20 minutes left, so I want to get through these last couple. The next one that we have here is a Gantt bar. Now, I spent probably 20 to 30 minutes trying to find examples of when to use this that wasn't basically just a project management view, and I couldn't find any. All the examples that Tableau gave or that I found on like Tableau Public, I thought were really, really stupid. So in my mind, it really only has one use case. And what's cool is we actually use a Gantt bar at my company in our product. So Builder Trend, project management software for homeowners. In our calendar tab here, you can click in and get this Gantt bar view, which is basically just every single schedule item that you have to build a house and exactly how long it takes. So you can see we have the plumbing rough in here. It lasts until May 11th. On May 7th, we have some installation that goes until May 14th. So you can easily see kind of a timeline of all your different schedule items, when they start, and exactly how long they take. But I can't think of any other use case other than that. So I'll show you how to build it, but I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because it does have such a limited use case. Where the rest of the stuff that we have, the rest of the class will use all the time. So let me pull open Tableau Public real quick and walk you guys through that. So we have in our data over here, we have a ship date and we have an order date. So let me show you guys, I guess, to start out with, and then we have individual order IDs. So here's every single order that we have. To make this a little more manageable, let's go to only orders from December 2020. Geez, even that's a lot. Let's go. We'll go like the first 2 weeks. Still too many. Okay, the first 7 days. Now, if we bring order date over here, exact date, let's make this discrete. So now we have our orders right here. Across is the order dates. And then right here, we're not showing any measures, which is why it's just showing ABC. But you can see this order was ordered on this date, and vice versa. So let's actually duplicate that. Let's go sort. All right. So now we can see this order was ordered on this date. This order was ordered on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and so on and so forth. Now, in order to get the lengths of the bar, and again, we'll get into calculated fields and stuff in a couple of weeks. And I'm not going to have you guys replicate this. I just want to show it. You can create fields that are not in your data set. So right now, we want to know how long it is between the order date and the shipping date. So to do that, we can do create calculated field. And I guess this is actually a good kind of teaser for next week. So we can do a date diff. So this is going to show the number of days between the order date and the ship date. We'll just call this days between. Now if we pull days between up here, what do I put here? So I'm having to mess around with this a little bit here. See, that's why I don't like Gantz. Let me see. How did I?
Sounds like you got a low floor.
Yeah, I'm on the 2nd floor here. Who knows what these cops are after out of there? I should just be able to. Yeah, I guess this is technically it. It just looks really ugly. And then we'll just bring. It has this column here called ship mode. Let's bring that on the color. So yeah, there's just a lot of orders here. Let's do. Let's cut this down even more to make it easier. Let's look at like just tech sales. All right, here's a nice ugly Gantt. Okay, so here's all our different orders. You can see the order date is where each one starts. The length of the bar is the days between when it was shipped. So this one was ordered on 12/1. Let's make this an exact date. Days between order and ship date. Sorry, this is taking way too long. Attribute. There we go. Order on 12/1, shipped on 12/5, days before 4. So you can see our standard class here. These bars are pretty long. Second class, not as long. First class, they're typically a little shorter. So I think that unless you guys are going to go into like project management stuff, the Gantt bar will rarely be used. So I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but it is up here. And in the Show Me tab, so I wanted to cover it. And then let's round out class real quick with pie charts. So if you guys get a job in data or work around data people, I will say 99.999% of data analysts, data scientists, data engineer, data visualization specialists hate pie charts. So if I did do this, prepping for this class, just Googled, are pie charts good or bad? The first 100 results that pop up, pie charts are the worst. The issues with pie charts. This last resort here, why pie charts are evil, which I think is a little aggressive. So I think they get a really, really bad rap, but they do have use cases where I think that they're used and used really, really well. So justice for pie charts. I don't know if anyone ever watches How I Met Your Mother, but Marshall, he gets really into graphs for a while, and he makes a pie chart of his favorite bars and a bar chart of his favorite pies. So knowing what you're trying to show and when to use it can make or break whether people will laugh at the visualization you build or find a ton of value from it. So I linked a few different articles in here that dive into it, but this is when you would not want to use pie charts, or why not to. So they have a limited display of diversity. So unless there's 3 or 4, or I guess in here they have 3 to 5 categories, it's really, really tough to read at a glance. You can see in here they have about 20 different categories. They all kind of overlap together. It's really tough to understand what they're showing. The second is limited perception. So it's really, really hard for us. You could see in general, right, this purple and this green one are bigger than most, but which one's bigger? I actually would have thought the purple one was bigger, but that's actually 13.5, while the green one is 13. Oh, it is 0.18. So unless you toss data labels on there, it's really tough to tell what they are. And then once you add the labels on there, at that point, you might as well use a table or a bar chart or something like that. And then lastly, ambiguity in size and orientation. So a lot of times people try to make pie charts fancy, make them 3D, show something like this. In this chart right here, you actually can't, I think the green one's probably the biggest here, but I can't tell between the orange and the blue. They all look up like they're about a third. So it's tough to, it's really, really easy to misinterpret the sizes of the slices. However, there are 2 primary use cases for when pie charts are great. One, if you want your audience to have a general sense of the part to whole relationship of your data. So very, very similar to that tree map where we showed, where we just want them to be able to say, this is about a third. Tree maps would be great if you have like 50 things, because you can fit them all onto once, where pie charts start to break down. But if you have, like I said, 3 to 5 is a good rule of thumb. Pie charts is probably the better view. Or if you just want to convey one segment is relatively small or large. So why are these 2 important? Here's some examples. If all we're trying to show is that something is about 25% or something is about a third, pie charts are actually a lot easier than anything else to show that. For instance, when I look at these 2 bars, I probably would have said, you know, that top bar there is probably about a quarter. This is actually the same data between the, or I would have said this one's probably about a third. It looks like a third of it. These are actually the same data points, but it's actually a fourth. So the way our mind works, right? We eat pies, we eat pizzas, we look at a clock. It's easy for us to understand what a quarter looks like in a pie as opposed to a bar. So if that's all you're trying to show is that this is about a quarter, this is about half, pie charts are great. The other thing that is really, really easy to do with pie charts is to show just as a part of a whole if something is relatively small or large. So it's really, really easy to see here. If we were just, let's pretend these are like our sales by our product categories, right? If we were doing a presentation on our tech sales and wanted to show, hey, these are all of our tech sales, everything else comes from furniture or something else, this is great of showing, wow, almost half of our sales come from tech sales. If we want to show our furniture sales is this small one here, that's really, really easy to show. It's like, oh, we actually don't get much from furniture sales. Now, who knows what's going on with the rest of these, but if that's all we're trying to show, pie charts are great. So let's pause for a second here. What are a couple examples or reasons why this chart specifically is good based on some of those things we just covered?
limited, I guess, slices in general, so it's not confusing.
Yep, only 3 slices.
I can look at it right away and say about 50% of my sales is tech.
Yep. So limited slices. We can easily see tech is about 50. We can easily see furniture is small. Now I put my labels on here, which I probably didn't need to do. But this, I would call this a solid pie chart. So yeah, all of our profits come from 3 categories. So that's another thing I like. I keep saying the term parts of a whole a lot. If I just show 3 bar charts of these 3, the bar chart doesn't really convey that that's all of our sales, right? We're just seeing 3 bar charts. This is really, really easy to see that this is 100%. And yeah, just like Ted said, tech makes up about half the profits. And then furniture is really, really small. So here's some data kind of shown 3 different ways. As an ugly pie chart, as a bar chart, and what I would consider is kind of a clean pie chart, right? You're not really getting a whole lot out of this top one to the left. You can kind of see, okay, it looks like phones, accessories, and copies are our big heavy hitters. But you can't really tell much else. In this bar chart, I like it because it's easily sortable, but it doesn't really convey the parts of the whole. If I was just trying to highlight something, so this is what I'd consider as a good bar chart, I just highlighted copiers, phones, accessories, and papers. You can see that those 4 categories alone make up about, a little over half of all of our sales. Now, these are actually the same categories and the same data points we used earlier in the tree map. So I'd say since there's, more than 3 to 5 categories, I'd probably show something like this, where again, you can see copiers, phones, accessories, papers make up about half. But if there's a smaller group, that's why I'd use pie charts. Okay, so we got 9 minutes left. I promise I'll get you out of here by 9. Let me go ahead and share Tableau, and I'll show you how to build a pie chart. All right, let's go. Let's just do the good one I called it. Let's bring categories onto rows. Let's bring profits onto columns. And then all I'm going to do, so right here, we can already see this is going to be the same data that we're showing. But again, we can't really tell that these are parts of the whole. And it's tough to gauge kind of how big furniture is in respect to the other things. So we'll go show me pie charts. We're right there. Now, the standard view here, I hate in Tableau. Pie charts, I always go entire view because it makes it big and centers it. And honestly, you could leave it just like it is here. So we have our category key over the side. We have our label if we wanted to hover over the top of it. The one thing I typically like to do, just because I hate keys, I think they take up a ton of real estate that's really unnecessary, is I'll just drag category onto the color here. Oops, already is category onto the label. And now we can easily see it here. And then another thing I like to do a lot is if we click into label and click into font, there's this really nice feature called match mark color, which will then color them the same thing as our various marks. So maybe we'll make this like Tableau bold and a little bit bigger just for readability. But we're now able to see, let's call it profits by category. And we're done. So take let's take 2 to 3 minutes building that bad boy out. Then I'll wrap up with the lesson for the week and get you guys out of here. give me a shout when you guys got it.
I got it, but I want to have the actual number next to technology. I'd like to have the profit next to it, so it's
Cool.
fairly visible. So I went into my editor, the label editor.
Yep.
I hit a space after category, and then I insert category. No, and it's only giving me a choice of category. So do I need to drag?
Yeah, so if you just drag, I think you could pull profit just directly
Over
onto the
label.
label
Yeah.
and then go ahead and update it like you did last time.
Okay.
3 dots. Another thing that we've talked about before is if you were to just drag profits onto the detail, it doesn't show it on your screen, but then you can use it in your marks. So then if you click into label and click in, oh no, I lied, it doesn't pop up. So yeah, I guess you do just have to take that and drag it right onto the label.
Thanks.
Yep.
I look at it as though if I had to print this,
Right.
it wasn't a dashboard.
Yep. Yeah. Our exec team at Builder Trend absolutely hates having to hover over to get the data here. So I try to put the labels visible on the charts as often as possible. Anyone running into any issues here? All right. Just because I promised, well, I guess I didn't promise. We put it as a stretch goal. I like donut charts a lot better than pie charts for no real reason other than I think they look cleaner. Donut charts are not a default in Tableau, which I think is really easy or really annoying because every other BI tool, Power BI, Domo, Looker, things like that, all give you the option. So I'm going to fly through this real quick on how to make one in Tableau. And then if you guys, I'll send out the video at the end. And if you guys have questions or want to do it, you can watch it back through. But we're going to use a similar concept to our dual axis chart. And we're going to make a fake dual axis. This is actually going to be an attribute. Oh, sorry, I'm choking under pressure. How did I do that? Oh, there we go. Okay. So if you're watching this back on the video, ignore everything I just did. All you need to do is come up to the columns, double click and type a 1 in there, and then just make that a dimension. And then you can double click in here again, do 1, make that a dimension. Now we have 2 of these side by side. We have our marks, multiple marks that we had before. What we can do is get rid of the colors here and the labels. So we basically just have a gray circle. Then if we right click, we go dual axis. We can see our gray circle completely covers everything else. Then we can move down the size. Whoops. We need to get rid of the size here. And now we have a donut chart. So really, really hacky way, annoying that you have to work around it. But if you did hate the pie and wanted to make the donut, that's an easy way that you could do it. Well, not easy. It's an annoying way that you can do it, so you can watch that back through later. All right. We have 1 minute. The remainder of the slides are just wrapping up. So same old. Week 3 assignment. Now, I'm going to actually change this based on some of the data sets that you guys have. They're not always exactly what we need for this. So let's do make at least 3 of the following charts. Table doesn't count. And we will bring that for, and let's also get rid of Gantt charts because those are annoying. So try to make 3 of these using, and again, I don't think you really need to find a new data set. Oh, if you want. But either a data set you already have that you like, or if you want to find a new one, bring it into Tableau, make 3 of these. We'll do the same thing that we did last week where we published a Tableau public. Send me the link, and then we'll walk through what you built on Wednesday. And that about does it. Any last questions or remarks or anything?
Where are you publishing the slide deck to?
I've just been dropping it in the Slack channel as soon as we hang up here. Cool. If there's nothing else, I'm actually really happy with how much content we were able to get through in a limited time tonight. So apologies again for that. But like I said, these kind of visualizations that we covered tonight, they have very specific use cases, but when you need to use them, that's kind of what elevates you and sets you apart. So hopefully you guys learned a lot. I will be on for the next 30 minutes. If you guys have questions, we'll end this stream or stop the recording at least, but you guys can stick on and ask questions. Otherwise, I will see you Wednesday at our normal time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Y'all have a good night.
See ya.
You too.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yep. See you, Ryan.
Night.